Looks as if you're stuck with me. The intro isn't working. It's that sort of Monday morning. It is really, really. We'll carry on regardless. Carry on regardless, and to try and find out what we should be doing as opposed to what we actually are doing. He's dearie, 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 dearie me. It's one of those things, isn't it? But anyway, let's just start off with the appeal that I regularly have now on behalf of Parkinson's. Parkinson's. Parkinson's disease. Not totally understood, not totally appreciated by the general public. There are so many other things, particularly cancer related diseases, that top the headlines, that get the attention. But Parkinson's can be devastating. It affects the brain, you see. It eats away at that little bit which controls movement. It shows those bits and pieces that are not obvious most of the time. But when they're in the spotlight, obvious they are. Most of the time. I've got Parkinson's, and as my consultant says, sometimes I wouldn't know it, Keith. You walk in here with a bounce. Well, I used to, and I can't bounce anymore. Over a 10-year period, I've deteriorated. And over the last 12 months, I've deteriorated faster than I did in the first 9. But I don't want this disease to win. And I am, along with a lot of other people, determined that it won't win. Muhammad Ali, Michael J. Fox, Billy Graham, Neil Diamond, a whole host of other people, well known and famous, all of whom fight like hell to try and get this disease understood and to do something to beat it. We haven't beaten it yet, but it's not for the want of trying. Now, what's Parkinson's, you may say? You've seen people who involuntarily shake like this. You can't see me. Can't see me walking at the moment, but I shuffle. As I said, the thing that really upsets me is I'm shuffling like an old man. And one good friend and kindly looked me in the eye and said, "You are an old man." And so I manifest both being old, but also it is showing that Parkinson's is slowly getting the better of me. But it's not really getting the better of me. It's just that my body is degenerating. And by the time that I'm actually 120, I'll be gone. No, I jest. And I jest because the only thing that I can do is to jest. Is to make fun of this damn disease. So it doesn't get the better of me. To laugh at it. To say, go away. Get stuffed. Go and bother somebody else. Leave me alone. And it's that positive attitude that actually does help temper it, but it doesn't stop it. And there are researchers all over the globe trying hard to find some cure, some remedy to try and make this dreadful disease a little bit more palatable and eventually to go away. They haven't reached it yet. Now, I was watching a little commercial for Action Cancer, Research Action Cancer, I think it is, who are very prominent on the high street, on television, in the papers, and they make an appeal for cash. This isn't really an appeal for cash. I'm not going to ask you to give £3 for a puppy, or £3 for a llama, or £3 for some poor child in Africa with a disease that on the surface looks 10 times worse than Parkinson's. Not a bit of it. I just want to help other people like Jeremy Paxman, who's also a sufferer and has started a unique and interesting vlog or blog or whatever you call them to try and bring sufferers together. I simply just want to help make it evident that Parkinson's exists and needs fighting the same as anything else. If you feel like putting your hand in your pocket and sending a few bob to Parkinson's, I think it's called Parkinson's UK, please do so. But I'm not twisting your arm. I would just like you to be able to recognize when you see somebody like this, to say, Parkinson's. I remember now that Daft Bugger Hayes was on about it. Because it's awareness that will help, not the pennies that you either will or will not give out of your purse. It's an awareness. And to give those of us who suffer a bit of backup when we're trying to be as positive as we are. How we're trying to fight it in our own particular way. You know, people can be very unkind, you know. Another friend said, I will not go to the pub with you. Well, the moment you get inside that pub, you start to stagger. And you haven't had a drink. It's very embarrassing indeed. But I suppose it is. But I pointed out to him and I said, look, here I am, just to help you, staggering around, pretending to be drunk. Well, there are a whole host of a group of people in here staggering because they are drunk and pretending not to be. Now, which do you want? Come on, put your hand in your pocket and buy that pint. Yes, it has its downside. It can embarrass people. Doesn't bother me. Any whoever suffers from any disease doesn't bother me. And to be quite honest with you, I'm very lucky because for most of my friends, it doesn't really bother. They make light of it and they joke about it the way that I do. And I do joke about it. Get lost. Stop it. Stop bothering me. I'm a busy man. I'm a very important man. I'm a VIP. Oh, that's as daft as me having Parkinson's. But it is one of those things that really will benefit far more than sending cash, than an awareness. So when you're watching me and they call me Mr. Keith, become aware of Parkinson's. Become aware of the devastation it can cause to many people who, when it hits them, are so upset and so worried by it, is they can't actually find the strength or the courage initially to tell it to bugger off. I told it that from the very start, and I'm glad I did. And yes, I've had my falling down periods. And there's nothing worse than falling down because you're suddenly out of control. You can't stop it. The only thing is that I have learned over the years how to fall without hurting myself. Mostly, anyway. You pick up little tips like that. I'm not going to keep you for much longer. This is to say, stand firm with us. Stand firm with those of us who have got Parkinson's. Because it's the awareness. It's the fact that we can be tough enough to tell it to stop bothering us. And that's what will eventually find a cure. Yes, the pennies are important. If you have got a penny, turf it in. If you haven't, don't worry. Just get together with us and tell people, tell the disease, enough is enough. Go back to where you came from, and don't let things get on top of us. So that's my message for this week. Yes, it's a little message, isn't it? But there are tons and tons of people out there like me who got parkies. Some it bothers beyond compare. Others, if it's going to get me, it's going to have to come and get me. I'm not walking into it. I'm not giving into it. And I'd ask you to support me in that way. Should I have another little burst on a Sunday? Last time it was at breakfast time. It's been a rotten day today outside. So it's late afternoon on a Sunday before I go. And I still get up at 5:30 tomorrow morning. I should be up and happen and back making sure that this television station goes on air at approximately the right time. I say approximately because sometimes we're a couple of minutes late. That's dreadful in the television industry to do that. But that's my concession. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for giving me your support. And if you see me in the pub, just because I appear to be shaking, don't think that I won over the 8. I probably only had 1, so I got capacity for another 7. And it's your shout. Toodle, toodle, pip. Well, there you are. It is Monday morning, and here I am. I got out of bed bang on time this morning, even though my watch is playing up. And we're on the air, and we're busy tunneling along. Now, let me just very briefly tell you what we're going to do this in this half hour. Is and it'll probably be just a bit longer than a half hour. Is this will be the history slot. We're going to have the crime slot now that we've got Richard Barton and Philip, his cohort, who are looking after the crime scene for us. We will have the return of Sarah Fitch Hayes with her art pretty soon. We have Liza Page with her alternative view. And we have Stuart Dalby with Energy Matters. And all of us have interesting interviewees, particularly now we're coming into the book season and the Speakers Lewis Festival, where we're fortunate to have a liaison, a nice, happy arrangement, and we take some of their speakers and interview them about their books. So that's where we stand right now, and we're going to do a little bit of history, looking back to what we've done in the past, but also looking at the past in doing so. Let's go there, shall we? Yes, we shall. Yes, I think one way or another we know where we are. Of course we do. So here we go with some history. It's about Lewis, but nonetheless, it is pertinent to almost all of the certainly English-speaking but free and democratic nations around the world. Here we go.
In the next few days, we are going to camp out in the Grange, in the south of the area of Lewes. The old man likes it here. He thinks he can just laze about and never do any work. Well, we'll see about that. Welcome to Mirador.
All this week we've been down in the Grange Park shooting various bits for Mirador Television. And while I'm here, I was thinking about the history of this town because I'm surrounded by it. And I thought, when I do a rant, why not do it here? Particularly if I'm aided by a little sip of champagne. It does loosen the tongue. But the topics are as serious as any serious topic can be. The first issue that I want to take up is that the computer people are getting out of hand with their damn passwords. Now, it's easy for me to say, or for you to say, he's an old curmudgeon, he's an old codger. What does he know about passwords? But when I made an odd comment about passwords on my Facebook page, I got all sorts of reactions from people of all ages, all persuasions, all backgrounds, agreeing with me. Passwords are getting out of hand. I think they've sent the boys down to the basement and said, we don't know what to do with you during the pandemic. See what you can do to improve the situation. But of course, let computer people loose, and their improvements are to tamper with what is already working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It doesn't matter what I tap into on my phone, I suddenly get a demand for a password. And at the bottom it says, if you press and click, the password will come up for this particular page, and it never does. There is a red warning saying, this is an old password, you changed it. But I don't remember changing it, and I find it extremely inconvenient that I have to look for a password so that I can get into a page or a site that is mine, and some weirdo off in the middle of Google or wherever is asking me for a password. It has gone too far, chaps. Get your act together. I once spoke many years ago to an insurance company that had started to take bookings online. And I said to the man who actually started this, what will it take to make this a huge success? And he said, one-stop shop. You pick up the phone, direct line, and everything can be solved. You don't have to do anything else. Well, it's the same sort of thing. At one time, computers and the computing systems were easy to handle. It was a one-stop shop. You had your password, you entered it, you clicked, and away you went. Nowadays, God help me, everything flashes up every time you try to do that, and it makes it very uncomfortable trying hard to get the information, to the point where I have said, and I've sent emails,
If you ask me for a passport one more time, then I am going to say to people, don't use this site, and I'm going to stop using it myself. So start to think, chaps. It may be that you're security conscious. It may be data protection and all the rest of this silly nonsense. But if you're pissing off the consumer, then you are in trouble, because we are the people that make you work. We are the people that pay for your service. Think twice. And sit down around a table and decide whether the consumer is more important or whether you want to add yet another layer of passports. The commercial. Keith Hayes. Should be.
Boiled or fried. I don't know who he thinks he's kidding. He only ever has oysters and champagne. And I have to work with him.
Break an Egg is going to be historic, and it's coming from the Grange Park in Lewes. Beautiful park. Why did she choose this? Because she said it's old.
You got that right. You said historic. You belong in the right place.
There we go. Never a moment's rest. Cha 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 cha.
I bet you were running around here when you were little, right? When this was built.
I was never little.
Or were you not? Well, good point.
But this particular house is quite interesting. First of all, if you look at the outside, is the Newtons, who lived here for about 250 years, the family, non-stop, actually nicked all that cladding from the Priory when Henry VIII had it pulled down. So despite the fact that he was very Puritan, the Newton family were thieves. And isn't it often true that the very righteous are the first to break the law?
There's something to that.
Oh,
I guess.
Yeah. You should know.
Me? You're the one who's not letting me look in your bags. God knows what you're hiding in there. Maybe a couple of stones or something?
Yeah, it's my bloody bank account that I'm worried about.
Not interested.
Yeah. Anyway, the interesting thing about the Newtons is that they were very anti-royalist, and this was the Cromwellian stronghold during the English Civil War. And the royalists set out from Arundel to try and take this particular house, because Newton was a leader in the local Lewes community, and Lewes in those days was the town. You took Lewes, you got East Sussex, and the royalists needed East Sussex. And they were accosted at Haywards Heath by a group of, I shouldn't say Cromwellians, but certainly Puritans, who formed a little army just not very far from here in Glynde. So this is historic in two ways. First, the royalists wanted to get it, and secondly, all that stone was nicked from the Priory. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're just terribly fascinated by this, aren't you?
Well, it's a rich man's story, isn't it?
Oh, have you got anything against being rich?
Well, certainly that's something I'm not.
Well, actually, later on, what we're going to do is, in the programme this morning, we're going to talk about charity. And our good friend Leslie Hills, who's an artist, and you like Leslie, don't you?
Yes, she is indeed a lovely lady. Lovely lady. I would say, if you would like one of your photographs to be painted, get in touch with her. She's worth every penny. And she doesn't keep the profits, because it all goes to her charity, to her favourite charity, Cancer Research UK. Was that all right, boss?
Oh, you did that beautifully. You did that beautifully. Now, back to here because later on, and as we came down here, you pointed out that there was a road here called Keir Street, down which the Prince Regent drove a coach and four. If in fact he'd have had an accident, he'd broken his neck, and history would have been changed. Oh yes, indeed. But one of the things about the Prince Regent was that he knew the Newtons very well here, and he would hop in through the back door. They gave him the key, and a lady, Fitzherbert, who supposedly was his mistress, and some say he secretly married, he would pop in through the back door, and they would spend a dirty weekend here. I got the key.
Oh, exactly.
Oh dear. Oh, you upset the apple cart now.
No comment.
No, well, actually, here you've got somebody who would be a royalist. There's the Puritan.
I like to say I am cultured.
Well, certainly, the other thing is that they were anti-royalists, and the last thing that happened in this park was, and I'm not sure where it is that our present Queen, Queen Elizabeth, just before she became Queen, when she was the Princess Royal, came here and planted a tree. And it's well documented, that. And I'm sure that the original Newtons would turn in their grave if they thought that the present families, well, it doesn't belong to the family anymore. At long last, their reign did end, and it now belongs to the local community. It belongs to the council. But they were violently anti-royalist sort of 300 years ago, and I'm sure that they would turn in their grave now if they knew that this house has got a lot to do with the royals.
Probably.
Yeah, you'd like to live there, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Do you know which tree is it?
I don't, but I'll tell you what. If we've got any time before lunch, we'll go and have a hoke around and see whether we can find it. Because I'm sure there'll be a plaque on it.
Hold on, that means I have to walk. Is it very far away?
And you have a go at me.
These high heels are for standing, not for walking.
And she has the cheek to call me old.
I didn't say it's because I'm old. There's a difference.
Yes. Now, this week is the first week of our new schedule for Mirador Television, and each day we hope that we can bring you just a little bit of history, a little bit of chat, a little bit of something that you didn't know, but also, hopefully, that we can make you giggle. And I'm a terribly serious person. The giggler is over there. Hey, see? Yeah, there's it.
Oh, apologies. Just some tickle.
Anyway, oysters and champagne have got to be on the menu sometime. Can we go and have them for lunch?
You haven't earned them yet.
What do you mean earn them?
You've done nothing for him yet.
What do you mean I've done nothing?
Nothing.
I went to the office, didn't I?
Oh, okay then. Thank you so much for turning up for work.
Oh, you're a hard taskmaster. And then when I got into this business, they told me that it was nice and relaxed, and all I had to do was drink oysters and champagne for my entire life.
I don't know who taught you that.
Anyway, we hope that we've got an exciting lineup for you. Ellie will host a couple of programs throughout the day. I host a couple, but also some of your favourites. Stephen Catlin will be here to try and keep the local council on the straight and narrow, and we will hear from our new added value, I think, Jake, who is going to find out who gets up first thing in the morning to make breakfast. So here's a newcomer for you, Jake, who actually at the moment is on the other side of the camera, but he'll be on this side when he goes around town and find out who's awake at 7 o'clock in the morning, which certainly isn't you.
Yes, it is actually.
I can't believe it.
Oh well, you don't have to.
What are you doing up at 7 o'clock in the morning?
I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, actually. This doesn't just happen.
It only takes me 5 minutes to put on my lipstick.
No surprise there.
Anyway, we hope that each day we'll bring you a little bit of something so that you say, I didn't know that. And also, because of this dreadful lockdown, and we know how much that's affected people, that we can give you a bit of a giggle. I mean, I'm the serious one, she's the giggler. But keep an eye on Annie throughout the day. And I hope that when she giggles, you'll giggle with her.
Let's hope so.
Shall we sort of go and look to that tree, and then we can come back tomorrow and we can take another look at a different part of this park.
Slight modification. Could you please go and look for the tree and tell me where it is, and then I will walk to it.
She calls me old. All right, we'll see you later. Thanks for being with us today. Toodle pip.
Bye-bye.
Well done, the energy companies. They're full of bright ideas to help their customers. Now they've made power so expensive that for an average house such as this, you can't afford to heat it. So you don't need appliances such as this. But that means you also don't need a fridge, because you can keep your groceries cool and fresh without it. The house is cold enough. Well done, chaps. There we go. It's a little look at history, a little bit of joshing, and a little poke at the power companies. Always pleases me enormously, that. We go to now a second look at history. It is done in an unusual way, I'll grant you, but there's nothing ordinary, nothing normal about Mirador television. So you just have to either like what we do or cast us aside. We say we're like Marmite. Some people hate us, some people love us, but nobody ever forgets us. We do things in a different way, and now it's time to do a bit more history, and why not?
Good morning and welcome. Another day with this one.
Look, look at that. You know, she caught me coming out of a pub last night. I only went in for the one. I just went in for the one. And she heard me say tilt, right? And immediately thought, he's going to fall over because he's had too much to drink. That's just the way she thinks. But in fact, what I was talking about was, we're going to the tilting green tomorrow.
Well, now I know.
You don't know what a tilting green is? Yeah, and what did they do?
I'm sorry, I'm too young to know.
Well, they all got drunk, mass drunk, and they all tilted.
Clearly.
Ah, yes, historical fact. This was the practice ground for the Lord's men to actually try and go woof with a lance and knock the other bloke off the horse or whatever.
Or whatever, indeed. Scientific word for today, poof.
Yeah. But that was when they tilted.
Okay. And when they didn't tilt?
Aha! Now you've asked the right question for once. When they didn't tilt in the early 1600s, what happened so that they didn't tilt anymore?
Oh, God. Is this a history exam?
Yes.
Oh, well, then I'll
Have a guess.
put a ground underneath. Put some more ground underneath.
They discovered gunpowder.
Oh.
So they started to shoot each other.
Oh.
There was no reason to knock one another off the horses anymore.
This is getting
They just took
lovelier
out
and
their
lovelier.
guns and went, bang, bang, you're dead. pretty basic stuff, but nonetheless, knights, charging at one another with lances went out of fashion. They weren't needed anymore. Oh, knights were still needed, or supporters of his lordship or of the king or whatever, but they didn't do it from horses in heavy armour. They just pointed a musket and went bang bang, you're dead. Ooh, this is a lovely sound, isn't it? Bang bang, you're dead. But what they did on this is it became a bowling green.
Ah.
So even though we talk about tilting here, it's nothing to do with drunken orgies or anything of that sort.
Oh, God.
It's all to do with playing bowls.
Here we go. Favourite topic.
I could get onto oysters if you want.
No. That was enough. Last time was enough.
I thought you liked oysters. Well,
You don't know me if you think that.
you stole a dozen from me on one occasion.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
Anyway, let's forget oysters for a moment, because the bowls that were played here and are to this day are the same bowls that Sir Francis Drake played when he spotted the Spanish Armada and famously said, "Aha, I have time to finish this game before I go and whip their backsides and send them off back to Spain with their tail between their legs, or their sails between their legs, or whatever between their legs."
Oh,
And
dear.
to this day, it is the only one left in the country that plays bowls in that fashion. Now, there's a problem there. Oh, come on, history lady. What's the problem?
What is the problem?
Well, if you're
There's
the
no
only
one to
one
play
left, eh?
There's no one to play it.
All right. There's nobody to play against, so they have to play against each other. Now, the bowls here are at least 100 years old, if not more. And when you become a member, you actually take over a set of bowls. And you can't become a member until a set of bowls is free. So someone either has to resign or pass away. They're no longer playing bowls here before you can stop.
Wow.
You didn't know all that, did you?
No.
Do you want to play bowls?
No.
Do you want to tilt?
No. What are you talking about exactly?
You
Don't
said
say it.
you said we mustn't talk about that at this hour of the morning. Anyway, there is one more thing that I have to tell you about this. I mean, first of all, as you'll see, the uneven grass, some people say, is for where the horses used to charge around, so it was never even. And when it became grass, it was like that, which adds flavour to the game. But Tom Paine, who's Tom Paine?
Tom Paine.
Who's Tom Paine?
Everybody knows who Tom Paine is.
But you're not going to say, are you? Tom Paine, who was an adventurer and philosopher, who wrote The Rights of Man. He went off to the United States, named it the United States, and actually persuaded the colonists to rebel. And so we suddenly didn't have, as a colony, the area that is now known as the United States any longer, and mostly it was up to Tom Paine. But while he was here, he would play bowls at this club, and he would actually get onto the green and play "Cry Sir Francis Drake Forever." But on one occasion, he sent a bowl down, and then suddenly said, "Eureka!" And he came and leapt over this wall and dashed back to the White Hart and started thinking about the rights of man.
Interesting.
True or false?
I think you made that up.
No, I didn't. It's true. Or at least it's been handed down from father to son.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should have a look into that. Just so you don't say untrue things.
Me? Say
Just in
untruths?
case.
Why would you say I would say untruths?
Don't know.
I can't take her anywhere. I really can't.
That's okay. I'll
Wait.
come if I want it.
I've noticed that.
Meh.
And next time I come out of the pub and I say tilt, don't assume that I'm dead drunk. I'm not, I'm just drunk.
Yes. Exactly. But that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
You heard it. Till tomorrow. Putting up with this one. Diddle bib.
Pray for me. Goodbye.
Okay, here we are back in the flesh, as it were, at the White Hart Hotel, and the White Hart Hotel is a historic hotel, a coaching inn, 16th century, which means it was built in 15 something. Originally, as a private house, and behind me is the fireplace with a TP initials on it, and everybody thinks that's for Tom Paine, but it is not. It's for Tom Pelham. The Pelhams being the family that actually built the original house before they moved down the road to an even grander place, which today is a wedding venue, but still a beautiful house. So it's Thomas Pelham and the Pelham family. The Pelham family very well known here. First of all, there is an effigy of Nick Pelham, who in the 1300s, I think it was, during the 100 Years' War, when we were subject to a lot of attacks from France. Not a lot of people know that. And all the coastal towns would be suddenly a French ship would hive up land and try to hack them to pieces and so on. And there were lots of defenses that went on. But Nick was the local squire, and word was sent to him that the French had landed in Seaford and were being rather naughty, and so he got his men together, marched down to Seaford, fought them, saw them off, sent them packing back to France, and became a local hero. And his sons, because the Pelhams did become a dynasty. Dynasty is several hundred years old, and very distinguished people they were. And they, apart from the effigy and the Pelham House, which was Pelham House Hotel, it was the seat of the local government at one stage, which we have none left. And is the Pelhams also have a pub named after them, which is up near the Roman Catholic Church and St. Anne's Anglican Church at the other end of the town. And it's a very nice pub, very nice tavern. The food is good. The ambience is nice. All in all, a pretty fair hostelry. And I'm happy to say that as part of our history lesson, we can tell you a little bit about the Pelhams. But they built this hotel initially, which did house the famous or infamous, depending on your point of view, Tom Paine, who was in Lewes for about 7.5 years, married here in St. Michael's Church, also just down the road, before going off to the United States, or at least as it was then, the Americas. And according to the historian Bill Bryson, it was Tom Paine that coined the phrase the United States. He was some character, actually, because we all know him as a philosopher and a hero, war hero, because he fought in the Indian Wars in the United States, and was not afraid to lift the sword. He went to join Robespierre in France, the Council of Nine, I think it was, Council of Nine, yes, to foment the French Revolution. Fell foul of Robespierre and missed the guillotine by a hair's breadth, a stroke of luck, in fact. What happened was he was out in the corridor of the prison, of the jail, chatting to other people, when the man who had been given the job of picking out those due for the guillotine the next day came along and put big crosses with paint on the door. So the next morning, the jailer knew who to pick and take out and put their head on the block. And Tom's name was on the list. But the man with the paintbrush put an X on his door, which was open. So when he closed the door, he saw the X, but outside the door was clear. And so he missed the guillotine because of an administrative oversight, as it were, before going back to the United States. But here, his ravings and writings upset the establishment so much. But he was considered treasonous, and he was put on trial. The charge wasn't actually treason, but it was everything except in name. Just that. And if he had been found guilty, he would have been hung, drawn, and quartered. A particularly nasty way to die. As it was, his defense was drawn up, and I think it was by Edmund Burke, the famous libertarian politician. And it is considered to this day to be the first ever defense of freedom of the press. But nobody thought that Tom stood much chance, because when you took on the king in those days, the king was still a sort of divine right and could do no wrong. And so it looked as if our Tom would have gone to the gallows. But his friends persuaded him that he would lose the case, and that's exactly what would happen, and he would be better off back in the United States, and that's where he went. But he was also quite a clever man. He invented wait for it, the smokeless candle, because in his day, people would read by candlelight. They'd go to bed and would leave the candle on, and they gave out noxious fumes. And some of them didn't wake up in the morning because they poisoned themselves. they managed to kill themselves overnight. And he invented a candle that was smokeless and wouldn't kill you. The fumes weren't noxious. He invented the single-span bridge, and that was partly because of his interest and tenure in the United States. In there, the rivers are so huge that the runoff in the spring means that all sorts of debris and ice and all sorts of obstacles are washed down on these huge rivers, and they hit the bridges and they knock them down, because the bridges would have supports underneath. So our Tom decided a single-span bridge was the answer, because there were no supports then for the sweeping down river, the ice flows, the debris to knock down, and the bridge would stay fixed. Didn't find much favor in the United States, strangely enough, at first, but it did over here. And I think it was late 1920s, perhaps early 30s, before his last single-span bridge was pulled down, and it was somewhere, I think, in the Sunderland area. He had a great deal to do with the internal combustion engine, not for cars, not for land vehicles, but he was very interested in the water and boats, and he did have a hand in developing an engine for ships, and was part of the team that devised a heavier than water boat. In other words, steel ships made from iron and cast iron steel. So he did an awful lot in a very short life. Well, he was a fair age, I think he was in his 70s when he went, but not a popular man at the end, because some of his radical ideas didn't sit well with the establishment, and so he was sort of pushed aside in his thinking, and the influence that he had when he was, in fact, a member of the group that signed the Declaration of Independence. There is a copy of that declaration sitting above me in the sheriff's room, the ancient room where all these meetings took place, and his signature is quite clearly there along with those of the other founding fathers of America. And Joe Biden gets all sentimental about going to Ireland because that's where the American presidents came from. He should come to Lewis and he should take a look at our Declaration of Independence. And it's hanging on the wall, and he will be welcome at any time, whether we think that he's a prat or not. He's sorry to be so blunt, but they get some funny ideas in the States. They propagate these things just to support a particular point of view, whether it's true or not. And that's Tom Paine and the Pelhams and the Pelham Arms, and the fact that this hotel was a Pelham house to begin with. A little bit of history, yeah, a little bit of history. And I haven't seen Suzanne pop up yet, but we may well see her. Normally it's about 10:30 that she comes on board, and right now it's 10:22. 10:22. So what I'm going to do is to resend the invitation to her because I'm going to actually say we'll take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back for the last half hour of the day. Sure, won't be history. I don't think it'll be history anyway. And then we will be ready. One thing that I should say that we are doing here at Mirador is a week this coming Friday. We are going to have a small reception in the front bar of what's known as the Farmers Bar at the White Hart Hotel with the 40 or 50 people quaffing pizza, quiche, and some special brew. We will have Dirk Campbell, the somewhat famous piper, to play the pipes for us. We'll have the king, somebody in medieval costume. I won't tell you who until the day, because we will, of course, be broadcasting this live. And it's still to be announced as a small choir, so that we have a bit of a party for the coronation, contributing our bit of noise and whoop-de-doo in tune with, in keeping with everybody else who is busy doing the same thing. All right. I'm going to say toodle pip just a moment or two, and then we'll be back. Let's see, it's now 10:24. We'll be back by 25 to 11, and we'll go for the last 10 minutes or so. Toodles.